All right, guys, we're back into game week 3 of the Premier League season, and already we've had a title encounter to talk about. Chelsea and Liverpool played out a 1-1 draw at the weekend. You also might have seen that Arsenal are bottom of the league, Tottenham are top. Who'd have seen that one coming? And you may also have heard that a certain Cristiano Ronaldo is back to Manchester United. Brilliant week to talk about. Let's start it. Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me today. I've got Myles and Dave with me to pick over all the things we've just mentioned. I'll start with you, Myles, with the Chelsea-Liverpool game. Obviously, a lot of other things to talk about as well. A certain Cristiano being the biggest point, I think, of the week. But I'm sure we'll have a fair bit to say on that. But how did you see this first potential title encounter between Chelsea and Liverpool? It was a 1-1 draw, 10 men Chelsea, Reece James sent off on half-time. Let's talk about the talking points from that. Did you learn anything about the teams, and who do you think will be happier with that result?
I think going into the game, they probably both would have taken a draw. I think the way that the game transpired, I think Chelsea will be happier with the draw purely because of the red card. They seemed pretty comfortable in the first half. Liverpool obviously had a bit of a threat, but Chelsea definitely seemed like they were on top for the majority of the first half, and the game completely changed with the red card. Edouard Mendy had a very good second half, I thought, and kept Chelsea level on a couple of occasions. But I think both managers will be satisfied. Early season, a big encounter like that, neither of them fell behind each other. I think that's the main thing. There wasn't a big embarrassment or anything. Chelsea defended very, very well, particularly considering they lost their own right back at one point. I think we didn't learn a lot about these teams that we weren't expecting. They're both going to be there or thereabouts towards the end of the season, and they competed well. I think Havertz obviously is starting to step up a little bit, so taking him off at half-time was always going to limit how much creativity Chelsea had in the second half. But at that point, it was just about preserving what they had, wasn't it? So a fairly safe result, I think, for both managers that they'll probably both be satisfied with in the end.
Yeah, safe for Chelsea, definitely, who, at half-time against this Liverpool team, it could have gone horribly wrong for them. But I thought it was a fascinating insight into the way Tuchel's mind works because, like you said, he took Havertz off at half-time in reaction to that. I think he brought Thiago Silva on as well, didn't he? So really sort of reinforced the back line for an onslaught from Liverpool. But to be fair, Mendy wasn't that challenged, was he? I thought they didn't get far enough through Chelsea's defence to even challenge him that much. So a few sort of wayward shots was about as good as it got for Liverpool in the second half. And that's credit to Chelsea, I think, really. So not too bad. Dave, what did you make of it? Were you surprised by anything? I mean, was the Reece James red card a red card in your opinion? There's some debate for some reason. I mean, I think there's no way you can not send him off. He's kind of angling his body towards the ball with his hand in motion as well. You've kind of got to see that as stopping a clear goal scoring opportunity, or stopping a goal full stop, isn't it? How did you see it, mate?
I think in terms of how the result panned out after the red card, I would say I wasn't surprised that Chelsea managed to hang on. We know how defensively strong they are. And obviously they made the adjustment at time they needed to get the result. And Liverpool, we've seen how wasteful that they can be. At the end, throughout last season, very inconsistent in their finishing. So they just didn't do enough to win the game at the end of the day. In terms of the red card, I feel that, in my opinion, it shouldn't be a red card. But going by the rules and the letter, that's a red card for referees. But I think that everyone's got an obsession nowadays of watching replays in slow motion and thinking, looking at the video footage and thinking in slow motion. But at the end of the day, it is in slow motion. You can't look at every piece of footage in slow motion and how quickly things happen. Reece James, it hits him on the thigh and bounces up and hits him on the arm. I don't see what you can really do about that.
And it's not that.
Yeah, I was going to say, interestingly, I think he had his arm and his body angled that direction. It's almost like it wasn't a natural position at all.
It wasn't that to me. It's not even about the position, because Dave is right. It hits his thigh and it hits his arm. The problem that he has is the contact with his arm doesn't stop with it just hitting it. He then pushes out. If you watch it again, and you can tell it was going to be a red card, and you can tell he meant it, because if you watch it closely, after he does it, the first thing Reece James does is look at the referee, because he's like, I'm going to get caught for that. The ball bounces up his thigh, hits his arm, but then he panics that it's still moving that way, and he moves towards it more. So it's not even that he's in an unnatural position to start with, but he does. He swipes at the ball slightly. And as soon as that motion comes forward and you lead with the arm, he's got to go. It was clearly deliberate. He didn't want the initial contact, but once he made it, he just did whatever he could to get the ball away. He pushed it back out. That's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah, I get Dave's point about you wouldn't have noticed that if you hadn't slowed it down so much, I don't think. I mean, at first glance, I thought it was kind of a bit harsh, but then on the replay, like you say, after the 10th showing of it, it looks like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but like, do you have enough time in your mind to process exactly what you're doing at the moment? Oh, it's just hit my knee, and it's of a second, it's come up and hit his arm, and then he thought, I'm going to try and claw it out the net, because
it's pure instinct. I don't think he thought about it. I don't think he stopped and thought, I'm going to push the ball out. It's just instinct. He's a defender. He doesn't want the ball to go in. The ball is making contact with it. You'd always just block it, wouldn't you? But he just pushed it. I don't think he chose to. It was a silly decision by a young player.
I don't know if they need to rethink this double jeopardy thing, though, as well, because in my opinion, a penalty and a red card is probably a bit harsh.
It's not double jeopardy.
It would have been a goal, though. It would have been a goal.
Yeah. It's not double jeopardy. It's not like a foul where the player hasn't even taken the shot yet. So you don't know whether he was going to score or not. So therefore, it would be double jeopardy to give a penalty and the red card. In this case, the ball is going in. So if Reece James stops that on the line with his hand, and then Mo Salah misses the penalty, that's not a punishment at all if you don't send him off. So I've heard people say that a lot today, Dave, this whole double jeopardy thing. To me, it's stupid. What else are you going to do? Otherwise, defenders would do it all the time. They just stop the ball from going in and just hope that the keeper can save the penalty. You may as well have 10 goalkeepers.
Again, though, that's not the clearest red card offence you've seen. That's not as clear as like literally putting his arm right out. You can't say that his arm being down there is an unnatural position. Even then, I don't think he's had enough time to actually react to that. To think, I need to, like you say, it's instinct, but every player has instincts, and you can't sometimes. It wasn't one of them where we've seen in the past where it's instinctive and players have outstretched their arm and saved it on the line. It wasn't anything like that. Like, I don't think it was clear cut to say that was definitely a red card. Like, in my opinion, I think it was harsh, and I'm not saying that just because it's Liverpool either.
No, it's a crowded space though as well in the box, isn't it? So if he doesn't push it away, it falls to someone else as well. So he has to do something. I'm not saying that I think he deliberately wanted to push it, but you have to penalise the instinct because it's against the rules. It's like saying when Zidane headbutted Materazzi in the final, it was instinct for him. Someone said something he didn't like, so he just headbutted him. I don't think he probably stopped and thought, if I do this, I'm going to get sent off. He just did whatever came naturally. You still got to punish him for it. You can't just do what you want and go, well, he didn't think about it. No, he definitely...
Yeah.
He made that motion.
I think Dave's arguing the case that whether it was avoidable for Reece James or not, and it sounds like you're saying that he couldn't avoid what happened. I think for me, it's just gutting that we didn't see the game play out as a full spectacle, because it was actually starting to become quite fascinating. And we said that all along. Tactically, it was unclear how the two teams are set up, but you got a flavour of it up until that point. And Havertz, like you said, was growing into the game really well. His header was fantastic as well, by the way. I don't know if it was a fluke or not, but it was very well improvised otherwise, wasn't it?
I think he meant it.
Yeah.
His placement was so perfect. The way he looked back over, it was brilliant. It was proper Chicharito kind of header, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Against Chelsea as well, funnily enough, that was. Bit of a mirrored image there. But yeah, I think the game was killed as a spectacle. And I think seeing a red card at that stage of the game of any game really, but especially the biggest one of the season so far, was just really disappointing, wasn't it? There's
one other moment that I just want to give a little bit of a shout to. And I've criticised Liverpool 1,000 times. And I think I've said here that I've always questioned Mo Salah's actual ability sometimes. But at one point in the second half, he put a cross into the box with the outside of his foot. And the technique in it was absolutely flawless.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I think Jota headed it just over the bar from it. He picked the man out so perfectly that even I, someone who detests Liverpool, sat and was like, that was brilliant to watch. That was really impressive.
Yeah, hats off. I think the games like that are always kind of moments of sheer quality. I think the Premier League's becoming a real good advert for just absolutely brilliant technical skill, isn't it? So, on that note, I'm going to move on to Man City 5, Arsenal 0. So, brilliant technical skill. I don't think we've seen that from Arsenal for a long time, have we? I mean, we talked about it at great length on the last pod, where Arsenal were at. I've seen a tweet from Mesut Ozil today saying, trust the process. I've no idea what the process is
it
at
mocking
all
him?
with Arteta. He could well be.
I think that was sarcastic.
It could be sarcastic, but there's a few people defending Arteta saying he needs time, but there's no rhyme or reason to the way the team plays. And I know it was predictable that they were going to get absolutely hammered, but to be 2-0 down within, 20, 25 minutes was so shockingly bad. And then the sending off was a clear sending off. There's no debate about that. Killing any kind of hope that Arsenal might have had of trying to claw back into the game. Was it ever going to be anything other than an absolute drubbing for them against City? City were up for it, absolutely. I think they've had a rough transfer market, haven't they, so far in some respects? Apart from, obviously, Grealish, who played pretty decently and set up a goal for them. But Arsenal were terrible, weren't they? Again.
I moaned about him for so long last time, Dave, that I think this one's on you, mate.
Yeah, go for it, Dave. Tell us what you saw.
More of the same, isn't it? Nothing that we don't already know about. It's... to be honest, they didn't start too bad the first 5 minutes or so of the game. Once that goal,
5 minutes.
Yeah, but he's right. He's right.
Completely fell apart, capitulated, and it's not just bad defending; it's criminally bad defending. Like it's easy. Some of the smallest players on the pitch are beating, Rob Holding and some of their, big centre backs to crosses, and it's not just that they're beating them to them; they're going unchallenged in the box, and it's just mind-boggling. And I sometimes thought United's defending at the back was bad last season, but Arsenal has been absolutely.
Yeah, their heads just completely dropped, didn't they? I mean, look at the caliber of some of the players they've got. You mentioned Rob Holding. Cedric Suarez, I don't know why he's an Arsenal player at all. I think Southampton fans were laughing when they saw that he'd gone to the club because he's just not very good, is he? And Callum Chambers, I mean, for all his promise a few years ago, he was an England prospect, wasn't he? He's been unlucky with injuries, but he's just not up to scratch. Where do Arsenal go from this? They've spent, over £100 million on centre-backs in the last sort of 5-10 years? It's ridiculous. Where's the return on investment for that?
Well, I will say the two best centre-backs Arsenal have weren't playing in this game. I actually think Gabriel's a very good defender, and if he has a good partner, I think that will really solidify them a bit. And obviously Ben White wasn't able to play it. But let's unpick it a little bit and how bad the defending was. My word. Starting a game with Kolasinac at centre-back.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I know Pablo Mari has been bad this season, and I know they've got injuries, but I forgot Kolasinac was there. Obviously, he went to Schalke at the end of last season, didn't he? And I thought he was still there, to be honest. Yeah. Starting him at centre-back against Man City as part of a back three, what was he thinking? And the defending isn't just about the back five in that game. It's Leno. Leno was awful. To me, Leno could have stopped at least 3 of the goals. The first goal, he gets a hand to Gundogan's header, and it's just so weak. There's no commanding presence with Leno. He just pushed it straight in. The second goal was awful defending. They took that ball, no one closed the cross down, and then when the ball comes in, I can't think who it was, which defender it was. It might have even been Tierney. Just swung a leg at it and completely missed the ball. And it just trickled all the way through unchallenged. Then we have the goal where Grealish is just allowed to get to the byline.
Yeah.
I think that was Cedric Suarez, who was already on a yellow at that point. So clearly was just panicking. Don't foul him. So instead just allowed him to walk through their defence. We talked about it last week. Man City love that goal where you get to the byline, cut the ball back. They've now got Grealish, who's brilliant at doing that, and they just let him. And Xhaka,
Yeah,
he needs to leave Arsenal because
he does.
he's a capable footballer until he puts an Arsenal shirt on and he just loses his head. He had the nerve to try and dispute that was even a foul. Now, all right, he does get some of the ball, but anyone
It was
within their
reckless.
right mind knows that you can't jump with 2 feet at someone. It was so dangerous. It's just a shambles. And there's no sign of change. We talked about it last week, and they've got worse since then. And now you've got players actively trying to flee the club and talking in public about Willian is going to take a 20 million loss or something ridiculous to cancel his contract. He's not even asking for the money. That's how much he wants to get away. And people are going, that's good of him. It ain't good of him. He's just desperate to leave.
He is desperate, yeah.
Maitland-Niles is messaging us on Instagram with pleas to leave the club. That's honestly, that's shambolic. If that was my club and a player was doing his business that way, going on his Instagram story, atting my club saying, please let me leave, honestly, it's embarrassing. And to add to the embarrassment, like you said at the top of the show, to be bottom of the table and to see Spurs on top, oh, that can't be nice. It's 2 tough games. You didn't expect Arsenal to get any points from Chelsea or City, but to not score a goal and concede as many as they have and just not look like they've got any hope, oh, it's bad.
Yeah, I think the manner in which they lost was sort of sadly predictable, really, wasn't it? And I think as soon as the red card came out for Xhaka, the writing was very much on the wall. And again, the game was killed as any kind of spectacle. Whether it would have been, we'll never know, but I strongly doubt it. But word for City as well. Obviously, a lot of talk about their misses in the transfer market, or what's perceived as their misses. They've been very open about trying to get Kane. It's not happened. They've got Ferran Torres, though. Dave, he did a decent job, really, didn't he? I think he ran the channels pretty well, and he played that sort of off-the-shoulder striker role quite nicely in the end.
Yeah, he's got he actually does a lot of the basics really well as a front man. He makes those really good runs in behind, and like we saw in his couple of goals, he just kind of stayed on the shoulder, had that little movement where he kind of stepped in and then stepped back with a second goal, the header. Okay, let's be honest, it wasn't the best defending, but you've got to make those runs to score those goals at the end of the day. And he's, I fancy him to score quite a few goals. We saw it last season. We saw him do it in moments. He just probably didn't get as many minutes as he probably would have liked. But I think City are now in a position now where they've not really got that trusted front man. So he might actually get the games this season, and he's definitely got a role to play. Him and Jesus have they've got to step up because it doesn't look like they're going to get a striker in anytime soon.
Yeah, that's my next question for you, Myles, really. Where do they go in the transfer market from here? And do they go in this window, or do they just wait it out? Because they've missed out on Kane. We now know they've missed out on Cristiano Ronaldo to Manchester United. How much involvement they actually had, I don't know. But I've heard that they got pretty close to agreeing a deal, short of signing the contract with Cristiano. So what do they need now? Can they get by? Of course they can get by. Their squad's worth like £1 billion, but is that striking needed based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come on to Ronaldo in a bit more depth in a minute. In terms of what City need, I mean, it's evident that they do need a striker. If Jesus got injured now, and he does have a bit of an injury record, then there would be a shortage. But they've got so many players in those attacking positions that Guardiola would be happy to just put up front for a while that are of such good quality that they'd get goals anyway, that they can definitely get by. If you want to mount a serious challenge for the Champions League, though, maybe it is necessary to have a more focal point in attack that you can rely on for each game. I'm not sure. I don't think they will get anyone, if I'm honest. There's not enough time left for them to get someone of the kind of caliber that they would need.
Yeah.
Anything that they got now would be them settling. They're not going to get Lewandowski. Bayern aren't going to sell him at this stage in the window. No. That's the other one they've been linked with. They won't go in for Haaland right now because of the release clause next summer. So I think they'll just wait, to be honest, and just hope that Jesus stays fit. Hope that they can keep playing Ferran Torres there, even playing Sterling through the middle sometimes, or Mahrez even. They'll just use what they've got because Guardiola, he lives for playing people out of position. To be honest, what they need more is a left back, because obviously the horrible stuff that's going on with Benjamin Mendy, you do wonder where their depth is in that position now. They've just got Zinchenko, he's not Champions League quality left back. Look, Champions League winning, I should say, quality as a left back. They don't have the number 9. So there are holes in that squad. And while other squads are getting stronger across Europe, not just the Premier League, they brought in Grealish, fantastic signing. But are City stronger than they were last season? Maybe because of Grealish, but it's hard to argue it.
Yeah. So they've obviously got Grealish, and again, he had another good performance, didn't he?
Yeah.
They're missing out on a striker, we think, in this window. It's going to be a strange season for City, a strange couple of seasons, because Guardiola's already said he's going to go when his contract leaves. I think he's not really said those words, but definitely words to that effect.
Yeah.
Is that going to have an effect on the way this next couple of seasons plays out? Do you think there'll be any element of the players stopping playing for him, especially if they don't find success this season? The next one's going to be even stranger, surely.
I don't think they'd stop playing for him because he's Guardiola, and a lot of those players have gone to that club to be there with him, haven't they?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of players, if you're motivated in the right way, you will see this as, this is my last year with Guardiola to get the best out of me, so let me put everything into it. There'll be exceptions to that, of course there will. But the weirdest thing about it is City, for a long time as a project, were being set up for Guardiola. But even before he was there, it was always very clear that's who they wanted, and they kind of put the infrastructure in place to facilitate that. So when he does go, who goes to Man City? Who feels right being at Man City? That's going to be a weird one. But I wonder whether that's partly in his mind of, why invest the money now? This is the squad I've got. These are the players that I want to work with. I'm not going to get the time to work with anyone else. That's why I think they would have taken Ronaldo, because that's just a ready-made player for a couple of years to see Guardiola out. But yeah, I'm not sure it will affect them that much knowing that he's going to go, because there's still 2 years left.
Well, I'm just thinking, we know that when Alex Ferguson announced he was going to retire, and then Arsene Wenger did as well, and they were saying sort of quite in advance so the club could make plans. That was what they were going to do. It had quite an effect on form, you see. So, yeah, exactly. So that's my only sort of thought with that, because, I mean, it will change mentalities in some players, you know, because a lot of big changes come into City, and how they adapt to that. It's almost like the modern equivalent of a dynasty manager, isn't he? He's not had long there in kind of Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger terms, but in current modern football, that's a long time in one club. He's built that in his image. So, yeah, tough one to replace, and a weird time for City to be in. So they missed out on Cristiano, Dave, but United didn't. Can I just get your opinion on how you're feeling? We've talked already. I know how you feel about Ronaldo going back to United, but wow, blimey. Who saw that one coming, eh? That's flipping amazing, isn't it?
I think, it's not really sunk in, I think, for a lot of fans at the minute. Maybe not just United fans, but I think fans in the Premier League. It's, nostalgic, I suppose. It's been a long time since he obviously left United as well. It's been, 12 years now? So it doesn't feel like that in some ways, but in some ways it feels like a lifetime ago. And I feel like, just for, as well as the fans, I'm sure for him as well, it's going to be an emotional feeling when he steps back into Old Trafford presumably next match day against Newcastle. And for some reason it's not on TV, but I'm sure they'll try and get it on TV. But in terms of the signing, I think it's perfect for the next couple of years, potentially more. Potentially, I think there's an option on the next year as well. He's going to give us that presence that we need in the box, because when we've not got Cavani there, we just lack the movement. But I feel as though he's got more to his game than Cavani. I suppose you can see the impact Cavani's made, but Ronaldo, I think there's going to be an effect on the players around him in the squad that they're going to have to lift their standards, and I think that's the exciting thing, is the impact that it's had on the players in the club and kind of everyone's reaction. I'm sure everyone's prompted to impress, not just him, but those in, step it up that extra 10-20% that you need the challenge.
Yeah, I think let's strip away all like the euphoria that we're feeling about seeing an icon come back to our club, because I think that's one of the most amazing things for us, isn't it? It's just seeing somebody who went away as a legend, but came away as an absolute superstar, didn't he? He's come back as this icon of the game, and I think fans will want to go and see him and just be in awe of him, because he's the kind of player now we've only seen on telly for the last decade, winning Ballon d'Or after Ballon d'Or. So I think that stardust is there now, and we've not seen that at United for a while. But Myles, I'll ask you the question: where do you see him playing? Because I know at Juventus he didn't really play as a centre forward very often, did he? He was kind of more out wide. But at United, it's almost like they've signed him to play centre forward. Is that where you can see him playing? Will he be happy there?
Yeah, he'll definitely play there in the middle. I think towards the end of his time at Juventus in particular, he was just in the penalty box. That's pretty much where he was. You would find him trying to just convert chances from there, particularly when Chiesa came in to play out wide. Kulusevski came in last season as well. So he will 100% be United's centre forward and will be competing with Cavani and Greenwood. I think for me, to try and be more objective about it, as someone who's not a Man United fan, just praising the idea that someone who is clearly iconic to the club is coming back, I still think it's tremendous business, because he's the best player of all time, in my opinion. And I still think he has a lot to offer in his game. However, the motivation behind the signing, I think, is really interesting. United were not going to sign that kind of player. They weren't, until it was Ronaldo going to City. And I just think from a commercial aspect, if the club had allowed that to happen, if Ronaldo signs for Man City in this window, the PR nightmare that is for Manchester United as a club to lose one of their biggest icons of a modern era to their rivals, this transfer window is a flop for them all of a sudden. And actually, they've done quite good business, but it would have ruined them. And in terms of the fact that United can always hold on to, yes, Man City might have a bit more money, yes, Man City are winning trophies, but we've got the bigger global brand. Ronaldo going to Man City doesn't change that, but it would start to threaten it more. So I do think that a massive motivation to sign him was just stop Man City signing him. And for Ronaldo, I don't doubt that there is the sentiment of he made the decision to go to Manchester United over Man City.
Yeah,
because I think it would have been a bit of a PR nightmare for him too if he had done it the other way around. So I do think that the media element of it was more crucial than the footballing side of it sometimes. Fortunately, it's a very good footballer too. I think it's interesting because he went to Juventus with one goal, really, win them the Champions League. He did very well at Juventus, but Juventus got worse while he was there. Whether that's his fault or not, or whether that's as a direct impact of the way that they changed their style of play with him, the changes in manager, it's very hard to justify not being incredibly successful when you've got Ronaldo in your team. So Solskjaer's under more pressure now too. So I'll be really interested to see how it works out. I think he'll be phenomenal because he's a phenomenal footballer. I hope that it doesn't then block Bruno Fernandes or even Greenwood's progress. I hope that it's well suited to that. But can I just say, it was hilarious that morning, the amount of Man United friends I have who were texting saying, this is the worst day of my life. I can't believe Ronaldo is going to Man City. I'm going to cry if this happens. And then I had a message from my flatmate who's a big Man United fan saying, this is the best day of my life. Ronaldo's coming home. It was an incredible story. And I'm really glad for it because I think he is a phenomenal footballer. I think there is a bit of a rose-tinted lens on it. Solskjaer talking about him being this wonderful human being. Well, that's still up for question at the moment, but we won't say anything libelous. But Ronaldo's back in the Premier League. What a brilliant statement.
I think that's the biggest thing for the Premier League and for fans of the Premier League to see him in the flesh now is going to be amazing. And I think we need that kind of like romance after the summer we've had of the Super League fiasco and Messi going to PSG. I mean, this is about legacies, and Messi's legacy is now very different to Ronaldo's, however it pans out from here on in, because Ronaldo's gone home. He's gone back to Manchester. So I just think that's a wonderful thing for football generally, ignoring the money side of it, because that kind of takes the romance away. But the sentiment is there, and he'll get such a welcome when he goes back on the Old Trafford pitch. It's going to be incredible to be there. I wish I was there. But those fans will see it and see him come back to United, and they've been telling their kids about Ronaldo for years, and now their kids will actually see him in the flesh. I think that's amazing. It's incredible.
I was going to say that to you actually. You're a parent, and your kids now get to watch Ronaldo at Man United. Like that's a wonderful thing. Dave was saying about the fact that the United Newcastle game is not on TV. I think one thing to remember is it's not on UK TV, and United and Ronaldo are so global that I don't think they'll care, to be honest. And it almost kind of makes two spectacles out of it, and they prolong it and get more of a commercial backing. I think it's an interesting one for Serie A. They will be gutted because it means this summer they had the wonderful Euros where they won, and then the transfer window just tore them apart. They lost Hakimi, they lost Lukaku, they've lost Ronaldo, Conte's gone. It is a shame for them. I mean, I talked about it a little bit on our little Italian segment as well, but
I was going to say, don't give too much away, Myles, because we've got more to come on that respect from our Serie A spotlight with Myles later on. But Dave, go back to earth again for a second. United against Wolves was an awful game, wasn't it? We introduced Varane to the team. We introduced Sancho to the team. They started the game for the first time for the team, and it felt like optimistic at the start. But the kind of football we played was awful. I think Wolves played us on the counter brilliantly, and Varane was a bit shell-shocked for about 20 minutes until he finally found his feet. But a bit of a reality check for United after all this euphoria, isn't it? How did you see the game, and are you going to read too much into it?
Yeah, it was painful viewing, really. Especially that first half. I think that's probably one of the worst halves I've seen us for a good while. And for some reason, that seems like I've said that a lot over the last 2 or 3 years.
You have.
Maybe too often. But yeah, that first half, we just couldn't put 2 or 3 passes together. It was constantly getting ourselves into trouble, losing the ball in dangerous areas. And, I don't want to moan about the same players again, but Fred in particular was just awful. Our midfield was completely absent. We couldn't get it from defence into midfield and through into attack. It was just almost sometimes like our midfielders don't want the ball. Like they're kind of hiding away. And you've got Maguire and Varane with the ball, and it's just so slow because they're not kind of showing for it. They're not showing for it and looking to turn and move the ball into spaces and, pull defenders out of positions. We were just all over the place, and it just really didn't look like we had a plan. And it wasn't until just before half time when Pogba played that ball over the top of Bruno and he was marginally offside. If we'd gone in 1-0 at half time, that would have been absolutely ridiculous because we deserved to be 1 or 2 down, really.
Yeah.
But that's been the story of the season so far. They've had over 50 shots, isn't it, at goal, and not even scored 1 goal over 3 games. So,
yeah.
I think as the game sort of transpired, we started to get more of the ball, get on a hold of the ball. It looked like Wolves started to tire, and they didn't quite have the energy in their legs that they had in that first half of the game. Got to around 60 minutes and we started to create chances, and obviously that's where the goal came from Greenwood, who's been probably our best player this season so far. I thought Varane was spectacular, to be honest, from, as you said, sort of like from 15-20 minutes onwards he was absolutely rock solid, and he literally dominated. I think apart from that double save that De Gea had, which was unbelievable, that was literally the only kind of, I think, header that he didn't kind of win. That only duel that he didn't win in the whole. I've got to say Varane was really good, and he looked like he kind of took to the Premier League like a duck to water. It didn't look difficult for him.
I disagree there because I think Adama Traore terrified him at the start. I think that's where he's a little bit kind of shell-shocked. He's still not got the end product, Traore, but he did cause United quite a lot of problems, and I think you could see a bit of fear in him from the start.
He terrifies every player in the world.
Yeah. Varane worked him out.
You want running at you. Adama Traore, nobody can stop him. Not even some of the players can get to him.
Varane did at one point, though, if you notice, there was a moment where Varane showed him down the other channel and sent him
And
onto
he's
his
got
left foot. He worked him out quite quickly because you're right. Traore's got no end product, so it's not really a case of stopping him running. It's let him run, just get to run in the wrong place. I think is the other thing.
Yeah. So United, not the most impressive. Mason Greenwood's finish was tidy there, I thought. I think, like you said, he's been impressive for the first 3 games now. He's scored in each game. So where does he fit in around Cristiano when he comes? There's still a few questions when Ronaldo does come to the team.
He'll keep playing off the right as an inverted forward off that right wing. He's still developing. You know, I think what you learn about young players as well is even the most experienced coaches, you know, Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, they played, you know, Henry got played on the wing for the first couple of years of his career. You know, Ronaldo started off as a wide player. They learn, you know, their all-round game and adjust.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like as long as he's getting minutes and he's scoring goals off of the wing. So I don't really see what the problem is at the minute. He's getting minutes and developing, then that's brilliant.
Yeah.
There are a few points to make about this game, though, that I think shouldn't be overlooked. I think the first one is if Pedro Neto's fit, Wolves win that game. If they've got a quality player who has got that end product, then they're going to go through. Wan-Bissaka's clearance deserves a mention because that was absolutely phenomenal defending. Fred, like Dave said, was absolutely dreadful and just seems to be on a mission to give the game away at one point. He just kept giving the ball away in very dangerous positions. That Wan-Bissaka block came from Fred kind of...
Yeah.
I don't even know what he was attempting to do. But Solskjaer's now had 100 games in charge of United in the Premier League. And only 8 managers have ever done that with Man United. And he's got the second best record ever with them. And he's also now just got 28 games unbeaten away from home. That's incredible, to be fair to him. People will question him a lot, and I'm probably included in that. But that speaks for itself. What more can you really ask for that? Anyone will always say that a team that wins the title will win games like this, where, Wolves were on top. They had a lot of chances. They got the 3 points. They didn't last week when they probably should have, but they did this time. So, okay, you would love to see them play better, but take heart and credit from the fact that you integrated 2 new players to the team. You've got Ronaldo to come in, and Solskjaer's something he's doing is working. I don't know what. United don't really seem to have a plan other than we've got quality footballers and you haven't. Doesn't really matter what system we put in place. It's just, I know Pogba's a good footballer, Bruno Fernandes is a good footballer, therefore we'll probably do something good at some point. But
I think the midfield does concern me though.
I don't blame you.
It's where we definitely do need to strengthen. And it doesn't look like it's going to be over this next day or so. Apparently Dan James is going to Leeds.
Yeah. I wonder if you shift Dan James and get a bit of money in for that, I do wonder whether there's a chance that United will go to West Ham and offer them Lingard and cash for Declan Rice, because Rice still hasn't signed a contract extension. And he's still talking about wanting to leave. Sorry, my camera just shot. And I know that West Ham would love to have Lingard back and another attacking player if they had the option. That seems to be the only way to get it done. I wouldn't be surprised if there was still some sort of movement. But if you're going to bring Ronaldo in, the money that you're going to have to put out for that, you're going to have to bring some money back in, aren't you?
Yeah, I think that's where they're at the minute. So I've heard plenty of talk about the pressure being massively on Solskjaer now. Pressure for what? I'm not sure. For a trophy? For the league? What kind of pressure is he going to have to face now? What is a good season and what is the minimum level now that Ronaldo's on board?
It's got to be a trophy, hasn't it, Dave? He's missed too many finals or semi-finals now. It's got to be a trophy. If not the Premier League, something's got to come back. You, as a fan, you must think that, right?
Well, I think we've been overdue a trophy for a couple of seasons. So, yeah, he's already on borrowed time in some ways. I've never been like Ole out, but I think he's had the backing. He's had lots of backing. And now we've signed a global megastar. So there literally is the pieces there. Not the right pieces, mind you. Like we've said, the midfield looks awful still. But we've got some absolutely quality players there that should do something.
The thing is, and it's something that kind of confused me with Juventus, is they had the lifetime, the opportunity of a lifetime in getting a player like Ronaldo in, but they didn't further invest in other areas of their team which clearly needed work. And we're in the same position now. We're probably a couple of players away from, really throwing our name into the hat, if not already. if you're the Glazers, you really should be investing. At the end of the day, you're only going to be buying a midfielder next summer, so you're either putting, you're either investing money next summer, or you just throw it in there now and get the player in while you can, because it could be the difference between winning a trophy or two or zero.
But that's United. Look what they did with Harry Maguire. And Mourinho wanted Maguire when he could have had him for 45 million. The club said no. The next summer, they went and bought him anyway for 85 or something ridiculous. I can't say I'm surprised by that. Juventus were handicapped by the fact that they literally couldn't afford to bring anyone else in after they brought Ronaldo and De Ligt in. You'd like to think United have got a bit more power than that and a bit more financial capability. But you say about them winning a trophy and that meaning that Solskjaer's kind of on borrowed time. Arteta won the FA Cup, but which one of those two managers has done better, really? Like, anyone would have said going into those two jobs that they thought Arteta would be the more successful because he had that time under Guardiola, he's this cultured footballer and it was going to be well. And we knew Solskjaer from his time at Cardiff. Solskjaer's doing much better with Man United, let's be honest. And Arsenal probably spent more money. So, I don't know. I don't think a cup is necessarily everything as long as you're still performing well and playing good football. And at times, United do that. It's just not consistent enough, really, is it?
I think we need to challenge for the league for as long as we can. And by challenge, I mean be within touching distance of the top right deep into April. But I think anything other than that is not acceptable, really. If there's a huge gap between us and whoever may be at the top, then that's not acceptable because squad depth wise, we're on a par with most of them now. You could argue Chelsea and City are still that extra few bodies ahead, and they are. But we should be there or thereabouts, definitely. But interesting to see for United how it will play out. And either way, it's exciting. It's exciting to see someone like Ronaldo back in, to see Varane. And let's not forget, we've got Jadon Sancho, who we talked about wanting for so long. That's been overshadowed massively now. We got him. So, plenty of reasons to be cheerful.
If you bring that midfielder in, this must be the best transfer window Man United have had in the last, I couldn't even tell you how long, right? Yeah. Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo on its own is incredible when you list it like that. But then if you've got that midfielder as well.
Well, the last time we signed a player that had any kind of big reputation, it was Alexis Sanchez. And that ended horrendously. Because we've not got a great record, have we? So let's face it, we needed some stardust that was actual proven quality. We've just pulled out some names that have been at the top level for a decade. So apart from Sancho, who's only been around a few seasons, but even so, what a level he's been at. So we have quality, proven quality, and that's the main thing. Speaking of adding quality, any other transfers in the rumour mill, Miles? Who's kind of looking like they're going to move in the next, 24 hours, really, before the window shuts?
Yeah, exciting last day, isn't it, really? Because there is still a lot being talked about. It looks like Mbappe to Real Madrid is off for now. I question whether that was ever really true, to be honest. Leonardo kind of said it at PSG himself, that he thought actually it was Real Madrid just kind of flirting with Mbappe and kind of putting false bids in just to show that they were there. So when it comes to him negotiating as a free agent, Real Madrid can say, but look, we tried to spend 140 million on you, so we definitely want you. I think there was a bit of that smoke screen going on. But deals that will happen. Kurt Zuma's obviously gone to West Ham now, so Chelsea have got space for another centre-back, and the talk is that Jules Koundé will come in from Sevilla. That would be a really interesting signing. I think I mentioned it last week that could be the one that really took them over the edge to just solidify that defensive line. A lot of outgoings from Arsenal. Reece Nelson's going to Feyenoord on loan. Willian's moving on. Looks like Maitland-Niles might do the same. And Nketiah to Crystal Palace looks back on as well, unless they get in Edouard from Celtic. I'm trying to think if there's any others that catch my mind, really. Apparently Villa are putting in a bid for Curtis Jones, which seems out of nowhere to me. I'd be really surprised if that was accepted because it seemed a bit low as well. But there's still plenty to happen. There's still players that have talked about maybe going at the likes of Lewandowski. I don't think anyone of that sort of size will move, but I'm definitely ready to watch it happen for the next day.
You cannot rule anything out this summer, can you? Literally, I feel like there's a curveball still in this next day or so in the transfer window somewhere. So we'll see. In terms of the rest of the games in the Premier League, I think we talked about it before we went on and hit record, didn't we, on this pod? There's not really that much to talk about. Obviously, Villa won, Brentford won. Emi Buendia's first goal, so that's noteworthy, I guess. Everton winning 2-0 away to Brighton for Everton is an interesting result, and Brighton were doing so well, we were saying. So that's out of the blue.
And the Richarlison tantrum was quite funny as well. If Mbappe had gone, he would have been off, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's so arrogant, isn't he? That guy. His face as well when Calvert-Lewin's trying to take a bloody penalty, and he's like, "No, what are you talking about, mate?" Like, yeah, I think if I was an Everton fan, I'd want him out of my club pretty quickly and take the money and run with him. Toxic.
He's a bit toxic, isn't it?
Newcastle 2, Southampton 2, Norwich 1, Leicester 2. Interesting one, West Ham 2, Crystal Palace 2 as well. Decent, entertaining game there. Shame John's not here to discuss that one with us. Burnley 1, Leeds 1. And then obviously Tottenham 1, Watford 0 to put Spurs top of the table, which is an interesting position to be in, isn't it, for Spurs? Because they've not been on top really in any of those games. It was kind of 3-1-0s, I think I'm right in saying. So interesting start for them as well. Any highlights for you, Dave? Anything you've seen there that's took your eye?
I think it was for me. It wasn't, especially when the news is that Spurs are top of the league. I think that'll be later. But
it's been one of those seasons, though, hasn't it, where it feels like nothing's going to surprise you.
Yeah, I think West Ham starting strong this season. That's one I wasn't sure whether they kind of pick up where they left off at the end of last season, but all credit to them really. They've looked really strong. Mikel Antonio's been formidable for them so far. It'll be interesting to see how they continue to perform, whether they manage to keep on the pressure right. I think that'll be another story, I think, over the next couple of days. And if not, next couple of days, I think next summer I think it'll probably end.
Yeah, I think so. They've got an interesting squad, though, haven't they? Their first 11's actually really strong. And Antonio, he's unplayable at the minute. I think the way he's playing with so much confidence and setting up others around him and finding space, and all the play goes through him at the minute. It's really impressive to see. He's pledged allegiance to Jamaica now, I think. I mean, Southgate could do a lot worse than have called him up right now. He looks on fire, doesn't he?
There is a worry with West Ham, though, that if Antonio picked up an injury, that's it. They've got no one else that can fill that gap. And it's going to be a long season for them because they've got European football as well. So they've started well, but I'll be interested to see if they've got the depth to cope with that long term. I'm really surprised they've not brought another striker in yet. But Kurt Zouma's a great signing. That's a really, really good deal. Yeah,
and they looked impressive. Like you said, the first 11, beyond that, it still looks a little bit thin. But yeah, to add Zouma to that already quite decent team is it's good business by the Hammers, really, isn't it? I'm sure John's thrilled with that. Anyway, guys, the next time we talk will be next week. And look out for the Serie A Spotlight with your man Myles at some point this week as well. Just a preview of that. Which are the highlights of Serie A this week, for the season that you're going to talk about?
My boys, Tammy Abraham got his first goal for Roma, which is fantastic. They continued their good form under Jose Mourinho. Sadly, across the city as well, Lazio did very, very well. Immobile got the first hat-trick of the season. And Juventus did really, really well after Ronaldo left and managed to lose to a newly promoted side. So not necessarily how life after Ronaldo should have started, but a very good weekend in Serie A once again. Plenty of goals to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Nice one. Yeah, please do hit subscribe if you like this content, because Myles will be doing that on the regular now, the Serie A Spotlight. It's an entertaining league, I think it's fair to say. And every time we talk about it off air, it's always like the most interesting league, I think, to pick through. There's so much going on. So yeah, look out for that one. In the meantime, thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Excited for what's coming as a United fan. I'm sure you are too, Dave. But yeah, another great week. See you soon, guys. Thanks a lot for the time.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.